Joining us now to discuss the case is criminal defence attorney Rebecca LeGrand. Rebecca, great to have you with us. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting a verdict anytime soon. Is there anything we can read into this?
Well, I'm not surprised we don't have a verdict yet. There are 18 counts pending against Paul Manafort, and they're complicated counts. The jury's been sent back with jury instructions that are over 100 pages long, if you type them all out, and with over 300 exhibits, boxes of documents. So I think the jury is going to take their time, look at the evidence carefully, and I would expect a verdict next week, potentially, but this could take even longer than a week. So I'm not surprised we didn't get a verdict yet, at least.
Complicated case, you say. One thing that struck me looking at how the case played out was that the defence didn't actually call any witnesses. How unusual is that?
So it's very common for the defendant not to take the stand. It's rare for a defendant to take the stand in their own defense. But to not call any witnesses was, I'm sure, a tough call for the defense here. If they could have called, for instance, their own expert to opine on the materiality of things that were allegedly fraudulent, or their own character witnesses. But it's probably a smart call in a case like this, to make the burden be on the state, on the government, as it must be, and to focus on poking holes in the government's case instead of putting your own people up there to receive the same kind of potential punishment.
And of course, for the prosecution, their star witness was Paul Manafort's former right-hand man, Rick Gates.
And what the prosecution will say is that their star witness is the documents, because they know Rick Gates is not a great witness. They know that Rick Gates has all sorts of problems. When you've been caught, when you're in a plea agreement and that's the only reason you're cooperating and your story has changed multiple times, they know his credibility is problematic. But what the prosecution believes, and we'll see if the jury agrees, is that the documents, to a large extent, tell the story here and speak for themselves.
And we saw there, down at the court, the number of media swarming around that courtroom. This, of course, is the first case in the wider Mueller investigation. How significant is this to that wider probe?
So, in one sense, it's not that significant. Paul Manafort himself is going to be on trial again in under a month now in the District of Columbia with charges that are more directly tied to foreign interference. But in terms of the mood and politics of this whole investigation, it's going to matter. If there's a not guilty verdict, I am sure you will hear our president talk about it. But as a technical matter, this is a sort of side issue. It wouldn't really, not getting a guilty verdict here doesn't really mean there's anything wrong with the broader investigation, but I'm sure that's not how it would be spun.
Rebecca LeGrand, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.